So, when we speak about values, our society is not value based.
Our
Society is not value based. For example, these values are merely taught or are part of Upanishads, the Maulya Mimamsa. We don't practice in day to day life. In comparison to Westerners, they do not have great Upanishads or value based theory, but they are far more successful in its implementation.
You see, the one thing, we have our Upanishad, which also speaks about, teaches about higher values. But there are on certain common values which are not Upanishadic values or which are not spiritual values, but they are values to be practiced in our day-to-day life. For example, while you walk in the street, you eat a chocolate piece and that piece of cover in the chocolate, will you just throw it in the street? A Westerner doesn't do it because he is right from the beginning he is taught not to throw it in the street. Not only that, if he throws it in the street, he will be subject to punishment. So to that extent, their society has become law-based. Whereas we are not doing it because we have not developed in law-based practice. But at the same time, do they realize what is meant by public hygiene and various other things, etc.? Not even that, because that was destroyed by inefficient or corrupt administration and so on and so forth. Therefore, for these small things, we may not bring Upanishads. Let us keep our Upanishads and Vedas for higher things. Higher things which are necessary. Because, when it comes to judge the basis of our values, naturally we judge it in the light of the higher values. But for ordinary day-to-day things, whether Eastern or Western or Japanese or, Japanese are highly value-based in their business and all those things, etc. But do they apply to Upanishads or, do they go to Lord Buddha? No.
At least we are not trying to derive anything from these. From the Upanishads or any Puranic story for that matter.
I think I am not very sure about Puranic stories, but I am sure about Upanishadic ideas.
Okay, and about the values that you have cultivated in your life, can you recollect some stories where you got this value learnings from your gurus or from your own past? I remember of an incident where you had gone to bank once and the cashier had given 500 rupees instead of 50 rupees. Can you just narrate that and the impact it had on you? Because your situation was very tough then. You were in a dire financial crisis.
You see, I had to pay fees for my BA Honours examination. The fee was 50 rupees. I used to borrow money from a gentleman. He was the father of my teacher and he retired as a judge. And whenever I was in need of money, that means need of money means 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 25 rupees, like that only. And now I used to go and borrow from him. He had a notebook. In a notebook, he had a page for me. And whenever he would give me money, he would ask me to write it there in that page. I borrowed 10 rupees on this date. It's in my handwriting. And whenever I would return it, he would just say, repaid this. So, this column. And he was advising me, whenever you deal with money, you must write down, because you may forget. You may forget it and there will be confusions. So, that is what I was doing. Now, to pay fees for my BA honors, I required 50 rupees. I went to that the old man, the retired judge, and then I asked for a loan of 50 rupees. He did not have cash. He said, I will give you check. You go and encash it. He gave me check for 50 rupees and a personal letter to the manager of the bank saying, this boy is bringing this check, please encash it. Because the bank people would not recognize me and then he may not honor the check itself. So I went, met the manager and I was given the, what is it called, the bill.
Token.
When my name was called, I went. It was a very, so there were so so much of rush in the bank, etc. He asked me, that name of that bill, number of the bill. I went and put it there in the counter, and then instead of giving 10 rupee notes, he gave me 500 rupee notes. And in a hurry, I also picked up and then came out. And when I counted it, it was 500 rupees. And I felt very joy about it. 50 rupees, though, 500 rupees. That means I earned 450 rupees. And in that, economic conditions of mine, I thought it is something God given. But I started thinking about it. Thinking about, is it fair for me to take that money with me? Did I earn it? Then my own mind justified it, saying, it is the mistake of the cashier. And because of this mistake, he lost 450 rupees. And why should I go and return it to me? So this way, I thought for over 15 minutes. And then I thought, well, if I go with this money, I will not be an honest man to myself only. I will degrade myself. So I just went to that man and then that cashier, and then I started talking to him. And he said, don't disturb me. There is so much of a rush of people. Go, etc. Then I went to the manager and then said, this is what has happened. And then I gave 450 rupees to the manager and then went back. Next day, that old gentleman who lent me money sent words to me, to my college, to go and see him. I went and met him. And then he said, you just bend before me. I bent. He held my head and then said one thing, you are an intelligent boy, but you have also character, you will become a great man. He blessed me. I didn't know the context. Then he said, the manager had come yesterday in the evening saying, the boy with whom he had sent the check and the letter, has returned for 450 rupees. We have come to thank you. And not only that, come to thank you. And this old man said, he is a poor boy, he is utterly in need of money, still he has returned it. It's appreciable. The manager and the cashier together said, we will give him an inam of 50 rupees. They took out money. But the retired judge said, you see, just because a person has returned, which does not belong, he is not, it is not his money, it is not due to him, etc. If you give inam, that means each person who is honest should be given inam. then where is the value of honesty? One must follow honesty for honesty's sake. And this boy is a philosophy student, he knows it. Honesty is for honesty's sake, not for any other ulterior benefit, etc. He will not take that money even if you give it. So he convinced them and sent back. And he told me this is what has happened. I have deprived you of 50 rupees earning. And he said, you follow this and practice it in your life. Yes, it's a great learning situation in my life, a turning situation in my life.
So money does not carry any significance for you. It's not overly significant because we have seen you donating the awards on the spot. You get a cash award, a very good handsome amount, and then you, without hesitation, instantaneously you give it for a noble cause there. So is this one of the key reasons?
You see, financially now I am comfortable. I am not rich. I am comfortable. I have a house, and then for my food and other expenditure, my earning is quite sufficient. And I also have some savings for health purposes, because these days we don't know when we fall ill or we may have to undergo any surgery or etc. For that I have kept some money separately. And afterwards, what do I want money for? What is the use of that money? And whenever I go for travel, etc., somebody, some institutions invite me, they send me ticket and they look after me. So I need not spend for these things. I mean, that is the situation which I have reached in my life, etc. What is the use of that money? That is the basic thing for me.
The most beautiful thing is all these are portrayed in the form of different characters. One has to read Nagappa's story, Sakshi, to understand money. That was very well answered, sir. Sir, one last question on the values. You have grown up in a rural environment, villages. You must definitely have had learnings from the illiterate people who did practice some values. Can you highlight some of those which were a part of their daily lives?
Now, I tell you something which happened in my village. I was a 10-year-old boy, and I vividly remember it. There was a farmer in our village who was considered to be a rich man from the village standard point of view. He had some sufficient land for his family, and also he was a money lender. Those days he had about 40 to 50,000 rupees of money lending, and with interest. Now one day, a man called, a tribal man came with some 5 or 6 people. He was about 60-year-old, and he had with him a 16-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. And then he just asked him, may I speak to Mr. Siddhegowda? Siddhegowda was the name of that villager, village money lender. And the Siddhegowda said, I am Siddhegowda, what do you want? He said, I am a tribal man. I have, this is my grandson, and this is a girl from my own group, and we have decided to marry them. For marriage, I need 25 rupees. Can you give me loan of 25 rupees. And Siddhagowda asked him, which is your native place? He said, I am a tribal, I don't have any native place. Then Siddhagowda said, what guarantee do you give me for the loan? He said, I will give, there is the witness and I swear in the name of the witness. That is all the guarantee. He said, I don't give you, I don't believe in you. Without the guarantee of landed property or gold. He said, if you don't give me, I will sit here, I will not go. And then discussion was taking place. Siddhagowda's wife, who was in the kitchen, came out and listened to the whole thing. And then she told her husband, after all he is asking for 25 rupees, even if he doesn't return it, helping for a marriage purpose is a punya. Therefore, give 25 rupees. She prevailed on her husband. And Siddhagowda brought 25 rupees from inside. And then he said, take it. This old man, tribal man, said, I don't take it here. I take it only in the presence of the witness. Siddhagowda said, who is that witness? He said, come outside, I will show you. So Siddhagowda went outside. And then he said, look, there is Swami. That is Surya. And with the witness of that Swami, I have received money. And with the witness of the same Swami, I will return the money also. He just took a oath and then said, now give me money. He collected the 25 rupees and then he went away. But he did not come even after 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. He did not come at all. And Siddhagowda died due to old age. His wife also died into old age. And the son, Siddhagowda's son, did not know this transaction at all. After some years, 35 years after, a man aged 50 years, again a tribal man, he came with his wife who was about 45 years. And then he said, I heard that Siddhagowda is dead. Who is Siddhagowda's son? Our son says, I am Siddhagowda's son. And then he said, for my marriage, my grandfather had taken a loan of 25 rupees. I have come here to pay it back. These tribal people, they don't have any place and they travel, you see, at a distance of nearly 200 to 300 miles this way, that way, and so on and so forth. That boy knew about it. And when they came this side of it, they wanted to pay it. And then that son, the son said, give me the money. And he said, no, I will not give money. Come, I will give only in the witness of Swami. Took this man outside and then said, look at Swami, and then said, your runa is paid back. And he took this sentence from Siddhagowda's son and then paid the money and then went away. Most uneducated, tribal fellow. That means this was our traditional belief of honesty. Witness was only the Swami in the sky. Now, what happened was, in most of the people, this belief was there in India. Now, when we achieved independence, during Indira Gandhi's regime, just before election, he made a declaration that anyone who has borrowed money, any farmer or any person with a loan of certain limit, when he or she has borrowed from the bank, he need not pay it. He need not pay it. At that time, a man called Pujari was the deputy finance minister in the center. Then all the people said, we need not pay back to the bank. And all the people rushed to the bank and then said, write our loan as paid back, etc., etc. The result was, people were given a wrong model, and they extended it. Indira Gandhi's law extended it to individuals also. Suppose you had given a loan to somebody, say your servant, you will not keep account about it, the document for it. You have given for your servant's son or daughter's marriage, say 1,000 rupees, and he would not pay you back, and then he would leave your service also. This started in our country, with the result that even if you have a document, that document would become invalid in the law court. Now, who destroyed our traditional values? Who destroyed our traditional values? That means many of our transactions was taking place without documents. Now, even with your document, even if you have, a fully valid document, it becomes invalid in the law court today. Suppose you lend money to me, maybe 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakhs rupees, etc., and then I will not pay back. You go to court. In the first place in the court, they ask the question, did you have a license to lend money? Are you a licensed lender? Where is the document? It is against the law. You will be punished for lending. I will not be punished, and I need not pay you back. This is what our democratic government has done for the sake of vote. So our traditional values are destroyed, and the new values, of course, Western system, it is not rigorously implemented in our country. You don't go to law court even for petty things. Even for 20 years, judgment is not, you can't get judgment. And if you get a judgment, the other fellow will go to district court, and from district court he will go for appeal to high court, and from high court, even Supreme Court. Where is justice? This is the tragedy in our country.
Yeah, we are neither here nor there. I mean, we have lost our modern Indian thinkers. For example, the model institutions like Shanti Niketan and the thought processes of Aurobindo, etc. Why weren't they feasible practically?
They have contributed their theory, etc. How many followers are there? Are they implemented? Which is the implementing agency? You see, until and unless the government transform those philosophies into practically workable law, it doesn't spread in the people. See, when you say about Shanti Niketan, I tell you one of my experiences. That happened maybe in 1963-64 when I was in Vallabhvidyanagar. I went to Shantiniketan by train. Now on the way, I used to see a particular flower. I traveled by train. A particular kind of flower I was observing. I became curious. I wanted to know the name of that flower. And I asked the passengers sitting by my side, and I asked him what is its name. He said, I don't know. I went to Shantiniketan. Next morning I went for a morning walk, and this flower was there in plenty. A teacher was going, Rabindranath Tagore's concept of Shantiniketan was classes should take place beneath the tree and not beneath in the building, and their education should start from study of nature around them. Name of the tree, name of the bird, name of the creeper, name of the flower, etc., and how they are grown. They start from there. And Tagore has written many poems on these, each bird and each tree, etc., etc., and teach these poems to the children. That was his concept. Tagore died, and then that school was taken over either by a society or by the government, etc. A teacher was walking towards the class. I asked him, what is the name of this flower? Then he was chewing tobacco, and then he said, it is some jungle ki phool hai. He said, jungle ki phool hai. I said, I know it is jungle ki phool, but what is its name? He said, I don't know. Shantiniketan's teacher saying, I don't know the name of that flower. And afterwards, I asked an old man, what is its name? He said, Kolmi. In Bengali, they call it Kolmi, but in Hindi, they call it Kalmi. He said, an old peasant says the name, but Shantiniketan's teacher, who is supposed to know the names of all these and teach it to it's a part of the syllabus. So, where is Shantiniketan? What was the dream of Rabindranath Tagore? It is in the textbook.